Good morning. Welcome to Town Talks with the Mayor. We're excited this morning to talk about two subject matters that are really important to our town, and that is our brand new downtown master plan and our discussions with our police chief, Allan Shields, on our resident safety. So this morning we'll begin with this new format, broadcasting live on Facebook and on YouTube streaming. We would certainly welcome any questions that you may have along the way. We can either do that via email, and we'll respond to as many questions as we can during this broadcast. We can certainly subscribe to the series and updates at danvilletowntalks.org/mayor. And as we're continuing this conversation, we would love to gain your insights into this program. If you think it's important, we'd love to hear from you. If there's other ways that we can discuss town matters, we'd love to have that opportunity as well. So the first thing we're going to do is just some town business. We have this Live Local newsletter that comes out, just came out in July, filled with a lot of information. We have a town arts project that is continuing, Bound for Books. We have 10 benches in town within a mile stretch of each other. We have a map on our website describing the locations, and they're just fun stuff. And we're looking at introducing a great deal more public art projects in town. Our teen centers. I want to mention that the town staff operates our teen centers, and beginning on September 5th, middle school students can participate in after-school activities led by town staff, and we'll have that registration link on our website as well. In addition to the benches, the activities at the Village Theater and the gallery is the art of a story. This exhibit closes on August 11th, so we would certainly recommend that you take a look at it before it goes away. And starting next week, the annual Eugene O'Neill Festival kicks off honoring the great American playwright. We'll have events here in September, and then many of us will travel to Ireland on our own dime and visiting the Irish, which is our sister city. Again, the newsletter is available now, and the link is danvilletowntalks.org/mayor. So today we're excited about this new project. It's our downtown master plan, and I'd like to introduce Ty Williams, who is our assistant town manager, who's been with the town for 23 years, and I have Andrew Dillard, our transportation manager, who's been with the town for 27 years, and we're looking forward to this project because it's new and it's exciting and it's necessary. So as we wander through town, we've invested a great deal of effort in our downtown. We probably have one of the cutest downtowns in the area. I can't get enough of our downtown. I pinch myself every time I walk downtown and see how exciting it is. Our businesses, our retailers, our services, all great people to visit. We are looking at some long-term investments here in our town. Mm-hmm. So, Ty, maybe you could begin by telling us the significance of this downtown master plan, and maybe we'll talk about just a casual conversation, how it's sort of evolved and where we're going with this. And welcome, Ty.
Oh, well, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, and happy to talk about it. I think for all of us who have been here for a while, and certainly for, as a Danville resident, I think we can all agree that downtown Danville really is kind of the crown jewel of our community. And I think this latest downtown master plan was really conceived shortly after the beginning of the pandemic, when we saw just how many of our community members love to congregate and just kind of socialize. Social distance, remember, in our downtown. So I think the council at that time had the foresight to ask the staff, gosh, what can we do to further enhance this beautiful jewel in our community? I think within a very short period of time, about a year or so, and with a lot of community input, we created the Downtown Master Plan. And the project that we are about to embark upon is really phase one, and it reflects, I would say, the top 3 priorities that we heard from our community during a survey where we collected nearly 1,500 responses. Priority number 1, we heard loud and clear from folks, is that they wanted a place to gather. I should say more places to gather where they could hang out with their friends. They can watch traffic go by. They can wave to folks who are strolling through. So that's a top priority. The second one was they said, gosh, now that we're down here more often, can you do something about slowing down traffic? We want to feel safe when we're hanging out down here. And last but not least, we've heard this from our business community and certainly from our residents. They would love to have more lighting. So ambient lighting, not just bright traffic-oriented lighting. So the first phase of the project is really about making sure that we create these three elements for our community to enjoy.
Yeah, as we know, this is a multiple phase project, and it's going to take a great deal of money, and some estimates even make this around $30 million. And the town has saved about $5 million at this point. So we thought, well, let's do something, and let's do something immediate here. And we started with this conversation with staff and the council, and Joe Calabrigo, naturally our town manager, that we needed something that would jumpstart this.
Correct.
And I, personally, the pandemic, I think was a reason that we sort of recreated ourselves. We reinvented ourselves. Even when we enjoyed the parklets, we heard from a number of people, wow, cars are really zooming past the parklet. It's almost uncomfortable. And I heard from my wife every time we sat down at a parklet. So maybe, Andrew, maybe you would go through the slides and sort of give everybody sort of an up-to-date moment on what we're doing right now and when we're going to start this construction. We're really excited. And let's spend a little bit of time on Prospect Park Plaza, because that's one of my favorite components to this whole project.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, happy to present this morning. Very exciting project. There's been a lot of work done over the last year, and this first slide here that we're going to show is basically an overview of the prime focus of this first phase of this project. And essentially, as you had mentioned, we're working on incorporating safety elements as well as aesthetic design elements throughout the downtown on Harts Avenue. And there's 5 key intersections going from south to north, basically from School Street at Harts all the way up to Linda Mesa Avenue at Harts. And there's a series of 5 intersections that will have stamped asphalt treatment in a brick pattern that will really help define the intersections. It'll really help define the downtown area even further than we already do. It's going to feature pedestrian safety elements such as curb bulb outs, so the crossings are shorter for the pedestrians. And a new element for the downtown that we haven't done before and is new is raised intersections. And those are going to be located at Prospect and Linda Mesa. And what a raised intersection is, it essentially raises the entire intersection, which it provides a slowing effect to the vehicles, as well as gets the pedestrians out in the intersection, makes them more visible to motorists. So it's a really, really nice safety element, and as well, those will be stamped asphalt concrete as well. So we'd like to run you through a quick summary of what each of those would look like. And before we do, take a step back to look at the overall schedule. So as mentioned, there's been a lot of work done to this point. Last year, we were looking at pre-design and doing a lot of survey work, schematics, which the town council took a look at several study sessions, taking us all the way to where we are today in the summer of 2023, which is nearing completion of our 60% plans, which is basically our design development phase.
You know, Andrew, I think it's interesting to note that from the council's perspective, March 2020 is when the pandemic actually hit. We started this conversation, it seems to be about summer of 2020, and tried to vet out some of the ideas and some of the things that we thought were important to include in the package.
Yeah,
So good.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so just taking us through, ultimately, we're hoping to complete design here in the fall of 2023, and then we'll be off and running for construction in 2024. So very exciting. So starting at Harts and School Street, this is an exhibit of the plan for Harts and School. This is a stamped asphalt concrete intersection with curb bulb outs. And the curb bulb outs, again, they help shorten the street. They shorten the crossing for pedestrians, gets them more visible, so the line of sight for pedestrians and vehicles and motorists are much improved. And This is an example of what that would look like at Harts and School Street. And moving on to Harts and Church as we move north, same type of treatment. There's 2 crosswalks on each side. Again, curb bulb outs on all 4 sides. The stamped intersection treatment. And you can see that on the Church Street and Church, what we call Church Court side, there's new curb ramps as well. Moving on to Harts and Diablo Road. This is a feature intersection where we're proposing not only the stamped asphalt concrete and the curb bulb outs, but also the branding of, as you see there, the Danville oak tree, which is a really cool feature that can be incorporated and integrated into a stamped intersection. Now we're going to move on to, any questions on that one?
No, I was just going to say, if we notice the existing aerial photos to the right, that's what the intersection looks like currently, and this is what we're proposing for those that have a hard time reading a set of plans.
Yeah, great point. And another nice feature, now that you pointed that out, is that you can see the current intersection is sort of skewed, and what this will do is straighten out the intersection, so it'll make it a shorter crossing for the pedestrians as well. So. As we move on to Harts and Linda Mesa, this is one of 2 raised intersections, the other one being Prospect Avenue, but this is essentially a fully raised intersection with curb bulb outs, and essentially the sidewalk will be at grade with the raised intersection, and you can see that there's a series of crash-rated bollards that will be also illuminated around the radius of each curb bulb out, and this is an intersection where we currently have a flashing crosswalk system that will remain in place. But this also provides the ability, or provides a nice feature with the bulb outs to look at adding seating. So as you see in the kind of the southeast corner there, on where the Hazy Barbecue site is, there's a lot of opportunity to add some really nice outdoor seating elements there.
And Andrew, maybe we could just touch base on why we had 2 raised intersections and not 5.
Great question. So as we got into this design, we found a lot of challenges, with an older downtown, things such as utilities and drainage that prohibited us from being able to raise all 5 intersections. But more importantly, these 2 intersections at Harts and Linda Mesa and Harts and Prospect is where we've had a lot of concerns from the public about traffic safety. Mm-hmm. So we definitely wanted to address that. At these 2 intersections in particular. So we feel that these 2 treatments will really help to enhance safety. But I would say it was those two elements that focused our attention to raise these 2 intersections. So this is a bird's eye view of the Harts Linda Mesa intersection. You can see this is looking towards the southeast corner again, where Hazy Barbecue is, and this is an example of what that would look like. And you can see the bollard treatment around there, and again, those would be illuminated.
Andy, maybe if you could pause really quick and talk about why the need for bollards.
Great question. Yeah. So when you raise an intersection, you're essentially raising the intersection to the level of the sidewalk. So in order to protect the pedestrians from vehicles, when you do that, you have to install these crash-rated safety bollards to ensure that vehicles aren't running up over the top of the sidewalk. So it's a feature that will protect pedestrians, and it also, as I mentioned a couple of times, they'll be illuminated, so there'll be an aesthetic. A nice aesthetic treatment for nighttime visibility as well.
And that will certainly help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is another example of the opportunities for seating there at the southeast corner, Linda Mesa, once the bulb outs are installed.
And Andy, not to interject here, but I'm very excited to point out a new feature aside from our benches. But we have these features that we call our concrete coffee tables, right? So here it allows people to sit. So different variations now, different textures in our downtown, place their coffee on top of it as a side table or a coffee table. But more importantly, You might not realize that, but there are also safety features. So if someone should decide that they might be a little lazy in turning that corner and they want to cut it, that would be really hard to do because it's placed right at the completion of the bollards.
I can certainly tell you that from a council's perspective, we did spend a lot of time with staff going through the many options on furniture, the coffee tables, and our downtown look. And I thought we did a very thoughtful approach to our conversation and trying to figure out what would be best fit Danville, because this is the vision of Danville in the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Absolutely.
What we do today will be in place, for the next 5 decades.
Absolutely.
I'm not even sure who will sit on this council when the last phase gets done, but at least we've set up really a nice set of guidelines and a thought process that we can complete this. But well done, really well done on furniture.
So now we're going to move back to our feature intersection, which is essentially the Harts Prospect intersection and what we're calling Prospect Park Plaza. Lots of design elements here, but I'm going to go ahead and start and kick it off before handing it back over to Ty to, again, provide a little info on the safety upgrade. So this is the other raised intersection where we'll have the at-grade intersection with the sidewalk, and then we'll have a series of, again, crash-rated illuminated bollards on each corner. We won't need as many of them at this intersection because, as you can see, there's landscaping incorporated for every corner. So that allows us to use more landscaping as the barrier and raised curb between traffic and pedestrians. So,
Andrew, I think what might be important to note here as well is that this is right in front of Starbucks on the upper left-hand corner of the screen. The Vets Hall is directly across the street, and the town actually owns the property that sits in front of Starbucks.
That's correct.
That's why we're able to do this without asking for permission.
right. Yep. Great point. So now we're going to transition to take a little closer look at what the Prospect Park Plaza is going to look like. Ty, would you like to
Sure,
jump in
sure.
on that
And
one?
Andrew, if you don't mind, I'm going to take one slide back, okay? I think you said it was the feature intersection, but on the design team, we love to call it our marquee intersection, right? A lot of folks call this Starbucks Plaza. It's not Starbucks Plaza, as the mayor just noted. It's actually Prospect Park Plaza. It's in our 2030 general plan, and that's the name of it ever since the first general plan. So we're very excited to kind of name the plaza in some of the signage that will also show up. The reason why I wanted to go back to an aerial view of this slide is because the first thing you'll notice is there's a lot more texture at this intersection and at the plaza. You'll see that we're trying to introduce kind of a garden element, so there's a lot more landscaping beyond just street trees. As people approach this intersection from either the north or the south, they'll see that it is different for those reasons, right? So they'll see a lot more greenery at the ground plane, not just kind of as a canopy overhead. And as we drop in to a little lower level, what this nighttime view of the plaza shows us is that here is where we're introducing a lot of the art lighting elements. In the plaza, you'll see that there is a little screen towards the backside where the Starbucks building is, and it's illuminated by uplighting, flooded. So it creates this a bit of a whimsical look and feel. Things are floating in the air a little bit. You'll see some more art lighting in the form of columns toward the street. So what the idea is that there will be more lighting, but not harsh lighting, not flood lighting, right? And as we move forward on these slides, what you will also notice during the daytime is that we're going to be introducing a lot more seating elements because we know that people love to sit and gather and chat with their friends and family downtown. As we move in a little closer to this viewpoint, you'll see that in that plaza, we've purposely designed it, and you'll see this as I scroll through the slides, for this to be a flexible space. So without any programming, you'll see that the Starbucks, cafe, bistro tables can be moved anywhere. The entire plaza is framed by seating on, along the street side, right? So everything's oriented inwards, just like a living room is. As you move closer in, okay, right now along this wall is a large trellis, and that trellis will be removed so that we can introduce really our, if this is the marquee element of the entire project, this is really the showcase art piece. It's a bronze oak tree that is symbolic of and representative of our Danville oak. And somewhere around here is going to be one of our many new acorn elements that our Recreation Department and our Arts Commission is going to introduce at some point. So you can see how this frames and sets the stage for what happens within the plaza itself.
What I'm struck by when I go downtown is this whole new stroller generation that we once were.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
there's the families, the kids, the strollers. I mean, they want some place to go and hang out. They want to go to the restaurant. They want to shop at our retail. They want to be downtown. And they want to live downtown. And this is a big part of it. This is how we're bringing people downtown. And we've heard from our merchants, can we light this town up? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to make this really a showcase piece. And I think marquee is a good word to use on this project.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the council would definitely agree, and to the point that you made about the stroller generation, right? So in this image, what we're showing is on the far right-hand corner, you might notice that there are some children on an elevated space,
There we go.
and that is actually a stage. It's a mini stage. So without any music or performance programming, children are free to play on the stage. But, and this is just a view of what happens with the oak tree at night. But what you can see here in this assemblage or collage of images is that in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that what we can do is we can program that stage. We can introduce musicians. We can introduce miniature plays if we wanted to. We can move seating around. During the daytime, people can just sit and chat. So the whole idea is a flex space that is really the focal point of this downtown project and allows people to gather. Oh, do you want me to talk about the Theater Plaza as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. For those who are familiar with the downtown, you might recall that between the Bridges restaurant, so that would be on the left-hand side of this image, and the Village Theater building, which is on the right-hand side of the village, right now it's really just a parking aisle, parking on both sides. And as part of the downtown master plan process, what we conceived of was an idea of, this would be a great place to create a convertible public gathering space. And what do I mean by that? I mean that during the day, it can be the parking spaces that we need it to be, but at night or during special occasions, we can turn it into an outdoor gathering space that is programmable. When I say programmable, I just mean the Recreation Department can, have outdoor exhibits, art galleries.
And remember, this ties into our vision on Front Street.
Yes.
Because that's our, sort of newly designated art district. We've got the town green, we've got this area right here, and those three components are going to bring people down to our Front Street.
Absolutely,
yes.
absolutely. This is our arts district, and we envision the Theater Plaza, which is what we're calling this, really to be the connector, right? The glue between the downtown and where all the businesses are, and to the arts district and the town green. So this is the east-west connector. And you can see, we've heard from our council and our commission and our community members, can we have overhead string lighting? And we're like, that's a great idea, but we want to make sure we don't have to stop traffic every time we want to change a light bulb, right? So we thought this is a perfect place to introduce that cafe lighting. And so regardless of whether or not there's parked cars or there's programming, we have that.
But we're going to 100% figure that out because we are going to put lighting across that driveway. I'll go there on a Sunday and change the light bulbs.
The other thing, and I'll let Andy talk about this, is that in order for this to be a safe space during programmed events, we're going to have also another new element, and those are retractable bollards. Andy, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, very exciting topic. So retractable
Andy.
bollards, they're really great because they basically recess down into the ground. So when it's open for normal parking lot use, they'll be recessed, and then when we want to have an event, we just pop them up and they're in place. You don't have to move them. So they're very, very easy to use. And it helps transform this space from a parking lot essentially to a gathering space, and to do so in a safe manner. So
I'm really proud of how we've looked at this from a multiple use standpoint, and for almost literally every event that we have downtown. From our car shows to our road closures to our 4th of July parade, these will all be valuable components, not only for safety, but, the ease of moving our 800-pound meridians around to protect the intersection. Mm-hmm. This will help in that respect.
Absolutely, yeah.
And speaking of a safe space and a unique space, one of the things that you'll notice in the Theater Plaza is this new introduction of an art element in the drive aisle. So you can see that the stamped asphalt is reflective of either butterflies or leaves cascading down the drive aisle, but it creates visual movement right throughout our space. And it really tells the traveler and the visitor that there's something special about it, even if there are parked cars there. So you can see that just as with everything we do here in Danville, we try to do it in a way that's special and unique to Danville itself. And we don't do it with a giant splash, but we do it in these unique elements that together, cumulatively, they tell people that Danville is a charming, special, unique place. And that's how we do that.
Excellent.
Just a couple of more views of what the space looks like. I don't know if it's showing up on this. Oh, there we go. And this is what it could be like at night. You can see that this is an example of what would happen if we put out our temporary stage against the side of the Village Theater. And I will end with that.
Well, you leave that slide up right there, Ty and Andrew. And what we're looking at doing is bringing people downtown and giving them an opportunity to hang out. That's what we love. We always say we're not Walnut Creek, and we're not. We're Danville.
Correct.
But what I love about Walnut Creek is that there's a downtown, there's a synergy, there's a gathering spot. They got a lot of public places where people can stay. And we took sort of a page out of that book and said, well, we should do this in Danville, and it would make a lot of sense, especially with our younger families now downtown, and and our older generation as well, because we all like sitting downtown, by the way, all right? But what we've done with our consultant and you two in particular and your team is we created this vision for the future. And this is what's really special about how we're proposing this. And we saved $5 million, and we're looking at, and if I could have my way, I'd have this thing started this year, but I think realistically, by the time we go out to bid, we're probably looking at I'm going to say spring of probably 2024.
Correct.
And this will take us probably through the end, through 24, maybe even early 25, depending on challenges.
Right.
Yes.
We don't have working drawings yet. We're probably about 60% complete.
That's right.
Yes.
But we nailed down and chiseled out what it's going to look at. We have a formal look. And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
That was the heavy lift.
And before we stop, and this is really exciting, but I did have a question from a resident, Cynthia, Andrew. I hope you don't mind. She asked if we have considered developing Camino Tasajara into an expressway, and what are the traffic relief efforts are we considering there? I know it's a little off topic, but it was a question that came up.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, great question. So no plans to convert Camino Tas or Sycamore into an expressway. In our general plan, as we know, it's a 4-lane major arterial, and that's what we plan to, for the time being, for it to stay as a 4-lane arterial. But in the future, to assist with congestion through our traffic signal modernization capital improvement projects, which everyone can find online through our capital improvement program, There's a lot of elements of those projects that's going to really help with traffic congestion, particularly that school traffic congestion that we're all familiar with, through installation of new hardware and software, which will help traffic flow, safety, all those types of things. And some of the elements, just to throw a few things out there, is traffic signal video detection, which will help us monitor intersections better. We can make decisions from the town offices as far as how to improve traffic flow. Fiber optics, we'll be installing fiber optics throughout the downtown.
Good.
That will bring back that information to us more quickly. So I would say basically through technology is how we're going to help improve traffic congestion.
Excellent.
along
I
the
appreciate the response to that. Is there anything else you'd like to add about our downtown master plan?
No.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
From a council's perspective, I don't know if you've heard this before, but we can't wait. So, right, Andrew?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So good. So at this point, I want to thank you. If you have any questions, if anybody from the community has questions, they can certainly call me or text or email. Same thing with Ty Williams, same thing with Andy Dillard. We want to get this information out. If you have any questions, please reach out to us.
We're happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you. And the next person that I'd like to introduce will be our Chief, Allan Shields. Allan has been with us for 6 years, and of those 6 years, we have been the safest city in California for 5 of them. Naturally, when we had COVID-related incidents in town, people stayed home, and our crime rate went down by a great deal. So, Allan, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
It's great. So, I want people to understand that there's a culture in Danville that I think is really special. And, unlike, you read the paper and even the surrounding communities are all having their own issues. What do you think is the reason for our success in Danville? And I would add to that when you have a council that really believes in law enforcement, we put monies and resources to help you become successful. And there was a lot of things that we've done over the years that I think have been good decisions.
Yeah, I think we actually just watched 30 minutes of why Danville's so great and why it's so safe. We just talked about all the improvements that we're going to do to the downtown area. We talked about how we're going to make structural improvements to improve traffic safety. If my 2 primary goals are to make Danville safe from a crime perspective and a traffic perspective, well, you just watched 2 of my partners here really just knocking it out of the park on behalf of the town. Think about this as an analogy. Have you ever been to that person's home? And I think my wife and I, we keep a pretty tidy home. But you've been to those people's homes where the shoes come off at the front door, everything's perfect, everything's clean. They move the couch every week to vacuum underneath it. You walk in that house, you feel compelled to take such wonderful care of that house, right? Like you're not going to do anything else, but you're going to make sure that you take wonderful care. Well, that house is Danville. And so when people come to our house, they know to take care of it, right? If there's some trash on the street, they're going to pick it up. If there's crime, they're going to report it. So really, it's about the relationship that we share with the community, because we don't get improvements like we were just talking about unless we have a relationship with the community.
Yeah.
And so I realize that as the police chief, it's my responsibility to go out and reach out and cultivate that relationship.
I think what's important to note is that from a council's perspective, we could throw a lot of money at the police department. But
I wouldn't say no.
It's the leadership that in our police department. Tell us about the culture in our PD and how our officers are chosen to be part of the Danville team.
Well, I think you hit two interesting topics, because you do talk about the leadership. And when I think of the leadership, I don't think of myself. I actually think of someone like you, the town council, Joe Calabrigo.
How
The
funny, I
people,
might be looking at it from a little different perspective because you're the main reason why we are such a successful community, and our town manager, Joe Calabrigo. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that man has been here for, 38 years, and we've been incorporated in Danville for 40 of those years. And
think about this.
He's been there the whole time.
During the downturn in the 09, 10, 11 economy, we actually added a position with the police department.
Yeah.
Who else was doing that? And that's because the financial situation for the town was managed so well that when the police department said, hey, we identify this need, the funding was there. Yeah. And then the same thing happened in 2015. We identified a need for automated license plate cameras. We submitted the proposal. and we've seen nothing but success from that program. So
Look
when you
how
talk,
long we've had it.
yeah,
Compared to other communities, I mean, Berkeley's an example. They just started the concept of putting in license plate readers. We've had it for, what, 5 or 6 years now?
no,
Maybe
no, 8
longer
years.
than that.
We've had it since
8
2015.
years.
Yeah, so it's been
amazing?
around for a while.
Been that long.
Yeah, and on the leadership topic, it's hard for me to miss. I'm surrounded by people that support me as a leader of a department. So I've got the town council, I've got Joe Calabrigo. I also have 30 people at or above my rank, including the sheriff, at the sheriff's office to provide me leadership, guidance, support. So I feel like the Danville Police Department is a position where we can't fail. Yeah. We've got too much. I don't want to say too much. We've got a lot of support.
And you got your reserves and those amazing VIPs.
There's several programs we wouldn't have in town if we didn't have our volunteer crew.
So what makes us the safest community in California? And there's 482 cities in California. Why us? What did we do so well to get that designation?
Well, you listed a number. You listed 482.
482 cities.
Yeah, there's 45,000 people in Danville, and it's not just the 30 cops, the 30 volunteers. It's the 45,000 people that are all pointing in the same direction. If you think about it from a compass, if you're at 180 degrees, you can be 178, you can be 182, but I can't have people that are over at 120. The people in Danville are all focused towards the same goal. It makes my job easy. Yeah. So when I notice a trend, like right now, we're having a lot of stolen cars. 2 years ago, we had 9 total, and I think we're at 11 or 12 so far for the year, right? So we're double where we were for a year's worth. That's not a good sign. So for me, then I know I don't have to, I don't have to do, catastrophic things. I simply have to let people know. And we live in a community where if I say, make sure that if your phone is your key, don't leave your phone in your car. Make sure their key fob isn't sitting in your car. And we know that if we put the messaging out there, people pay attention.
If I had my way and I could write the script, I would certainly have a force field around Danville and keep all the bad people out of Danville. But realistically, we're not isolated. I mean, we're going to get crimes of opportunity. In fact, I've had a close friend call me up and say, I can't believe I got my laptop stolen out of my car. Yeah. I'm like, dude, how did that happen? Did you break into your trunk? And then there's a long pause, and he said, no, I was just going into the store for 5 minutes. I left it on my front seat. I thought it'd be fine, and I came back out, and my window's broken.
Yeah, so force field, that's the Steve Simpkins quote, right? The chief before me. And I think that's a great example of Steve came here and for 7 years crushed it. He really, he implemented some good strategies with outreach, with crime prevention, with problem-oriented policing. And then I get to essentially stand on his shoulders and continue to push forward.
And build on it.
Absolutely great. I'm the person when you talk about crime and, laptops being stolen out of cars, I'll go shopping on the way home and I'll hit Lunardi's. And I'm the one with my backpack walking around the store like I just got out of high school or something. Yeah. And I do that because I don't know how, as the chief of police, I can explain that the laptop that you guys provide me was stolen out of my car.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way about my laptop. So, but I put my alarm on. I mean, we lock our doors at night. I mean, there's certain things you do.
Sure.
And, I know we have statistics in town from, cars that are broken into that are locked versus ones that are unlocked. Homes that are locked versus ones that are unlocked. I know we get complacent when, crime seems to be very, very low, but it's not low when somebody breaks into your house. And you think everything's going to hell. What's going on? We got an uptick in crime because that's because your house got broken into. And it probably got broken into for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I think a good example is if you look back at 2015, we had 119 residential and commercial burglaries in town, right? In 2021, we brought it down to 24. I think last year we were somewhere around 36 or 40, right? So we can stand on our soapbox and say, as a community, we're doing fantastic. If you're one of the 40 that had your house broken into, that's one of the, aside from a violent crime, an attack or an assault, that's one of the most invasive things that can happen. Someone came into your home where you're there to protect your family. So it doesn't feel great. So that's why when we talk about like Danville being the safest city over a period of time, Joe Calabrigo would say, we don't compare ourselves to other cities, we compare ourselves to ourselves.
Sometimes people hear it enough that they do become a little complacent, but I never want to minimize how important it is to have that designation. And there's a lot of factors that go into becoming the safest city in California, for 50,000 and less population. Yeah. But the whole idea is we have a police department that's on the streets. We have residents that actually call our police department. They call our chief and say, hey, we got something going on here. And those are the eyes on the streets.
Yeah, to kind of illustrate that, and when my call to action for people in the community right now is, last year we tied our lowest reported violent crime ever with 10. So rape, robbery, homicide, aggravated assault. All we had were 5 robberies, 5 aggravated assaults. Now, if you're one of those victims, that's a horrible day, and I'm not dismissing or minimizing that. But 10 is certainly a whole lot better than 40, which is where we've been in some years. This year already, from January to June, we're at 11.
So let's talk about it. We have January to July already sort of in the books. How do we compare this year from last year at the same period of time?
Yeah, so everything else across the board seems to be on par with last year, except for those violent assaults, the aggravated assaults. Now, this isn't a pushing, shoving match. This is where, maybe someone hits somebody and they lose consciousness, or they require stitches, or they break a bone. So these are more violent attacks. And when I see an increase in that, we want to take a deep dive and we look at it. And we look at we don't have that much crime anyway. So the big crimes, we look at them very intensely. And if needed, we'll actually reach out to our partners at the sheriff's office and bring down additional resources at the time of the call. But when we took a deep dive and we looked at those, and we looked at some of the common threads, it were fights that never had to happen. These weren't targeted assaults. These were, there's a party, there's a gathering, there's a dust up, people get upset, tempers flare, and the fight happens. And so our call to action on that is call us early, call us often. 2012, we were at about 30 to 33,000 calls for service a year. I think last year we were at like 16, 17, 18,000. So if people are concerned that they're going to call us too much, or they're going to, bother us, it's no bother. We would rather go early, and sometimes just showing the cop car, sometimes just simply getting out and saying, how's everything going? Calms everything down.
I think that's excellent advice. And then tell us about the license plate readers. So for those in town that are new, that maybe don't know what we did with our license plate readers, maybe you could explain that.
Yeah, pretty incredible. So back in 2015,
can't believe it's already 2015. That's amazing.
Yeah. So the idea of the license plate readers came out probably closer to 2010, when we had a violent crime in town. And if we could have just placed the suspect's car in town, we had other corroborative evidence to show that the crime occurred. And we thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if you just had a camera at the off-ramp sort of thing? And so, technology and funding kind of reached a point where they met for us in 2015, where it became reasonable to implement a system. And so in 2015, we covered 13 locations, and we had wild success with it. I mean, we were catching crime before it happened. You catch someone that comes into town that's on probation or parole for theft. You catch him coming in with a stolen car, and you either chase him out of town, or you end up making an arrest for some cause. The great thing is during that time, we saw that there were gaps that we could fill, right? We had your force field around the town. And the problem is, someone comes in, I have to now check every single street in town. And great thing is 2019, you guys approved going with a new vendor, much lower costs, better product. And what we're able to do is go from 13 locations to 26 in town.
So
and
whether it's a known felon coming through town, or a break-in in a neighborhood with somebody who recognizes it's a white Acura, we can actually locate that white Acura on our cameras and figure out where they're going.
So a great example is we actually had a stolen vehicle from a home on the west side of town last week. Person hears a dog barking, they get up, 2 of their cars are missing. That's a bad day, right? I know if I got up and I saw 2 of my cars missing, I'd be pretty upset. They reported it so quickly. Our officers responded, with everyone we had, and they were able to put the plates into our license plate reader system. And because we did exactly that, we did the infill, we were able to see where they were going and what direction in town. Believe it or not, our officer actually got in pursuit of 3 vehicles that ultimately ended up being stolen. The 2 from ours and 1 that had been stolen from outside the area.
That's just good, solid police work.
Well, and then, we were able to catch one. We were able to, our partner agency was to catch another. So we recovered, I think, 3 total vehicles of ultimately the 4 in that case that had been stolen. We were able to file charges on the 2 juveniles. And I don't think it happens. I can almost guarantee it doesn't happen if we don't have those license plate readers, because we don't know where to look. And so that said, crime happened, go look here.
Well, look, we just received a question from a resident about using license plate readers to deter follow home crimes. And also, we'll start with there. So license plate readers to deter follow home crimes.
Well, so I don't know that license plate readers are going to deter or prevent follow home crime. I think in general, it has a preventative effect. If people know that you have cameras, they may be less likely to come to your neighborhood. But this is where we would ask and throw another call to action. Individuals need to be vigilant to their surroundings. And so if you're coming from a place, let me back up. In order for crime to occur, you have to have three things. Like in a fire, you have to have heat, you have to have something that's combustible, and you have to have oxygen. In order for crime, you have to have a motivated offender, you have to have a target, so that could be our laptop, or in violent areas, it could be ourselves, and then you have to have a location, a suitable location.
Yeah.
So an example would be a park at night that's not well lit. So when I hear the downtown improvement plan and I see that we're lighting up downtown, I know for me that's a crime safety thing. We're making it safer in those areas. So for us, if we're applying it to the follow home crime, do we have something that is a target on us? Am I wearing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of jewelry? Am I coming from a place that, like a casino, where it would be perceived, or maybe I actually have a lot of cash on me? So there's things that when we know there's a potential for a target, should we be more aware of our surroundings? What about location? Do we go to an area where maybe crime is higher and have people see us? And so we need people to be a little more vigilant to, is there something that they're doing to make themselves, their car, appear as though they're a more sensational target?
And the next question is about how we will expand our police force as we add new homes with the adoption of our housing element.
Well, so I'll be honest. I don't think there's anyone on the planet, any police chief anywhere, that if you said, hey, I'm going to give you 5 more officers, no one would say no to that, right? That you can always use more, right? I don't think there's a factory that couldn't use more labor. Everybody could use the part of your business that works the best. And we know that's our detectives, that's our police officers, that's our supervisors, that's our traffic officers. So there would never be that. But what we do is we take an analytical approach and we look at, do we have more calls for service? Do we have more crime? Of the crime that we have, does it necessitate one person to respond or 5 officers to respond? Are we calling in resources from outside? Right now, as we go through year by year, and frankly, every month I go over the stats with Joe Calabrigo and we look at it. And so we are, I would say, continuously analyzing the best way to deploy our staff, the best way to deploy technology, right? Those license plate cameras around town, I used to make the joke. We had an officer here called Mike Ireland. He was our canine officer for a long time. Yeah, everybody smiles when you hear his name. But he was the most vigilant officer. He was one of the smartest officers I've ever worked with. He had the ability to just know everything about everyone. If there was a criminal in town, he would know who they were, know everybody they hang out with, know where they would probably be. So what I said was, when we got those cameras, it was like putting a Mike Ireland at every off-ramp in town. And so in that time, when we saw our residential and commercial burglaries start to climb, one solution may be to add staff. One solution may be to take a technology approach. When we looked at it and we looked at how would we work to solve and stop these crimes from happening, it became clear that the technology approach was the better approach. And it allowed us to focus.
Questions on what are we doing in our schools? Maybe you could just talk for a moment about our school resource officers and their roles in the school and how important that is.
Yeah, so in Danville, we're funded for 2 school resource officers, and they're primarily positioned with our 2 high schools, Monte Vista High School and San Ramon Valley High. While they're there, their primary function, and this is what people maybe don't want to talk about, but their primary function is the safety and security of the campus. If something really bad happens, I get to go to you, and every year I present an annual report to you, and in the annual report, I get to say that our response time is 5 minutes. Well, if something really catastrophic is happening on campus and your kids are on campus, is a 5-minute response time acceptable? No. So
Probably feels like a lifetime.
yeah. And so we know that when we recognize that we need those officers there and we need them right now, and we need them to be able to respond in a way to protect those kids. What's the reality? The reality is they're actually working with kids. They're mentoring kids. They're trying to identify issues early call early and often. And that's where we partner with the teachers and let them know, please call us. Let us know what you see. Because we know that if we create an inclusive environment on school, if we identify people early that are on the way out, then we can pull them back in. We can create, part of this group, and we can really work to resolve that. But if we don't have officers there, then maybe we're not doing that.
I think people would agree that we do a really good job about putting our officers on the street. We put our cars on the street. We're making sure we have a police presence in town. I think that helps. I know our jewelry stores feel much more comfortable, with our officers on the street.
Yeah. The other thing about schools, though, by the way, before we go, is every week during the school year, we take a group of officers and we'll go to a middle school and an elementary school, and the whole goal is just to be there and speak with the kids, right? Yeah. If all you did was watch TV and the news, you would only think that cops do certain things, right? And so we're there to kind of dispel the rumors, but also build a relationship. We don't just serve parents. We don't just serve business owners. We serve our kids too, and they need to know that. They need to know that the police are here to help them and support them and be there for them.
Yep. So do we have questions for our chief? Have we gotten any questions in? Then I'll follow up with our 10-8. I know that every Wednesday you do your 10-8 podcast. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us the information that people could actually listen to. I think it's Wednesday at 5.
Yeah, so Wednesday at 5 we go live. We go live on Facebook and YouTube, and this actually came out of the pandemic. And the bottom line is, in the pandemic, we weren't able to do recess with the cops. We weren't able to do coffee with the cops. I wasn't going to our Realtor Marketing Association and speaking. Everything was, if I was, it was online, and it was very sterile. And so we thought, how do we get information? How do we provide an opportunity for people to jump on and ask any question they want? And I do my best to try to answer questions live during the show. And if I can't, I'll answer them later on during the chat. But if you don't mind, we can throw camera 4 up. And so one of the things we'll do is we'll make announcements of what's coming up. Like we have a coffee with the cops. If people want to come and hang out with some police officers, bring the kids by. August 4th at 9 o'clock, we'll be at the Bagel Street Cafe. And this is the one down by the livery. Some of the other things we'll do is we'll cover the collisions that have occurred over the last week. And if we want to look at this slide, we did have a fatal injury collision on Camino Tas, just east of Messian on the 21st. Then we had a hit and run and a non-injury collision. And then, this was not a good week for crime. We did have the one robbery, a burglary, 5 thefts, and 3 vehicle thefts. And so what I'll do is I'll go over that, and some of them I might go in greater detail. So if it's the armed robbery, we might get a lot of questions on that, and people might want to know what's going on. So I will give them as much information as I can, but I'll make sure that they have what I can. And if it's something I can't release because we're following up on it, I'll make sure to let people know why. And I hope that by being as transparent as we can with this, that people will understand. And really what I'm looking for by providing this information is when I say I can't release that, we're still investigating, that people will have faith and show patience. Because if they do that, then our officers can do their job. Sometimes what we see is people will want to tell the story kind of play by play. And the problem is if they put information out, like if you have a Ring doorbell camera and you put information out, if I'm looking for that car and that car is, highlighted to the community, those license plate cameras don't do me any good because I'm never going to see that car because no one's going to drive it because they know the people are looking for it.
Yeah, we're getting close to our time here, but one of the questions came in, and it's as mayor, what is your biggest fear? Well, certainly I would say that we are very fortunate in Danville to have an extraordinary town manager, that extraordinary police chief, a staff that's just incredible to work with. So all the components, we balance our budget, we do all the right things. But from a mayor's perspective, crime certainly would be one of those items that, when crime is on an uptick, our residents become jittery. Sure. And then I would say the other part of this is losing local control in Sacramento. That keeps me up at night a little bit. And I'm not a guy that usually gets very, very agitated about things, but certainly Sacramento we certainly have a watchful eye on Sacramento. Yeah. And I would probably think that our housing element would be my third component there. So, Chief, it's been wonderple talking to you.
So I'm glad to see I topped that list.
Yeah. Well, crime is at the top of my list.
Yeah. You know what I'll say though? And this is what, so I do, I'll honestly, some nights I go to bed and my brain is spinning and I can't get it to stop because I'm thinking, okay, how do we attack this problem? How do we solve it? One of the things that provides me two things that provide me comfort, and we actually started off with this, was the support that we get from the community, the council, and Joe Calabrese, our town manager. Like, I know that I'm supported. I know I can come into work, propose an idea, and be told, go do good police work. Go treat people with dignity and respect, but go do good police work. The other is, I know I work for a sheriff and a command staff on the sheriff's office side that will support me as we provide service to the town of Danville 100%. And sometimes I don't even have to ask for it. Sometimes they'll be aware of a call and they'll say, hey, we're going to send you some detectives because we want to make sure that Danville is supported. And that's the kind of support that we
Agreed. And when from a council perspective, when we work with other jurisdictions that don't get along the way Danville gets along, and because we get along so well, and we're all rowing in the same direction, I think it makes it a lot easier to make good decisions because we're all on the same page, and we're not arguing.
Well, here's the one thing though that I do always have to say is behind the scenes though, and this is maybe doesn't get shown in public, is there is an accountability aspect between the mayor, the town council, the town manager. The town manager has oversight over the police department. He reviews what we do. I remember there was a case where it was back in the pandemic when there was a neighboring city that they had a pretty significant amount of looting, like active looting that was taking place. Social media messengers were coming to Danville saying, we're going to come break your stores, do this. And we had businesses calling saying, hey, what's going on? Well, we declared a state of emergency that night. And one of the council members came in and said, hold on a second. Is this lawful? Should we be doing this? Is this the right thing for Danville? And that's the thing that no one ever sees. No one ever sees because we're fairly agreeable. No one ever sees the accountability aspect. If you're a resident that lives in this town, you want to know that someone is actively engaged in managing the culture of the department that's delivering service to the community. And I think that's, as a resident myself, that's awesome. And I know if that continues to go on, I know the town will be successful literally in everything that the town does.
I know you have a great deal of respect on the council, and we're all fans, and we appreciate all the good work you've done in this community here. And I want to thank you for being with us today here.
Appreciate it.
I know we're running out of time, but we wanted to hear from our residents. If this is something that our residents would love to continue with Town Talks with the Mayor or whatever venue we're looking at, we want to get information out to each of you. So I would say, look, my short message is, shop local, live local, come downtown. Our parking is free. I mean, we joke about that a little bit, but that's a big deal when our parking is free. And I want you to know that we're always accessible, not only this town council, but the mayor, the police chief, our town manager. If you have a question, reach out to us, and we're happy to talk to you about any issue you have. Email, text us. And with that, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next Town Talks with the Mayor. Have a great day.